Hello, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Alana.
and welcome to Tea Time Crimes.
Welcome. We like to have you here with us today to talk about the tea and the time and the crime.
Oh, the tea and the time and the crimes. I like it. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. I'm a little tired because Nymeria,
Little black kitty.
I don't know how 6 pounds can just disturb sleep so much. It's wild.
Oh, it's amazing. So Alana and I have these two
Twin
cats. Yeah, we call them twins. One is all black, one is all cream, and they act exactly the same.
Yep.
They're
They never know where they
pitiful.
are. They're
No.
they live in another realm,
Yeah.
but they're so cute and they're our secret favorite cats.
They're so sweet, but they always look up from wherever they're sitting like, ooh, how did I get over here?
Yep, exactly. Goldfish brains.
Like, they need us to protect them while they eat because they'll just
Yes.
not be able to manage
Correct.
by
Nymeria will
themselves. They're
scream
pitiful.
until I
Mhm.
sit with her when she eats.
Yeah, I have to keep the other animals away from
Oh,
Sophie.
we have to lock her in a different room.
Yeah, or she'll just, like,
Yep.
if any of the other animals even come within a 10-foot radius, she's like, "Oh, my breakfast is over." She'll just
Yep.
run away. It's absolutely pitiful.
I have to pretend to eat Nymeria's food, so she'll eat it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's different.
Yep.
But yeah, Sophie does the same thing to me all night. She wants to cuddle me, and she paws me in the forehead to let me know she wants to cuddle me.
It's like, no, just cuddle.
Just cuddle me, like, just lay down. Nobody's
Ah.
stopping you from doing this. And she
Yeah.
looks at me so sad, like, could you help me lay down? I don't know how to do it.
Pitiful. Yeah.
So I'm not
Nymeria likes
surprised
to
at
come in and
all.
out of the covers. Yeah, last night she was so obsessed, like she had to have her face next to mine, which is sweet, but like just
Yes.
stay there.
Yes,
I don't know.
that's
She
what
was
she
she was
does.
very restless. And then I think part of my problem was like whenever she's around, I like to listen if she's gonna throw up.
Oh, that's fun.
And so I think I was like half
Sounds like a fun
tuned
game.
to that. And I should just like let it go. Cause I'll usually wake up when she does it and throw her off the bed as gently as possible.
Like-
It's like a race.
You said that as if you just truly enjoy it. It's a list of things on your profile.
I need to let
like,
it go.
enjoy listening to the sound of cat throw up. Those hairballs.
So, oh God, yeah. So it was a little bit of a rough night's sleep, but not terrible. She's still cute and I love her.
Yeah. I there's a world, I know they would hate it if it actually happened, but there's a world in which those two get together, and in my mind they're best friends.
Yeah, totally. But they lose each other constantly because they don't
They're,
know
like,
where they
staring.
are. So
They're staring at different corners of the
Yep.
wall.
Nymeria's screaming at the wall. Sophie just kind of tilted, looking. Yeah, I could
Yes.
see
Is
it.
Nymeria cross-eyed like Sophie?
She's not, but she doesn't have good vision.
Yeah.
So like you can really creep up. She also doesn't have good hearing, so you can really creep up on her. She goes deep sleep.
Yeah, neither one of these ladies would have survived in the wild.
Oh no,
for sure.
Oh no, she
Yeah.
was like basically born in the shelter. Like she's always been with humans. Her first name was Sizzle. She's just little and she
Aw.
had a big head and she had a tiny little body. She was a runt.
Sizzle. That's cute. Sophie was also a runt, but somebody just put her on a box in the street.
Ah, don't do
I know.
that. Or Chris
She
and I will
probably had no
find you.
idea. Yeah, well, I took her. Don't worry. She probably hadn't the slightest idea.
Oh.
She was probably like, "This box is nice. This box is moving. This box is now moving again, and now a human has me." That's probably all that happened for her.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
So
Sophie.
she's fine. But I know, pitiful.
Pitiful. How's our little Pepper Pooper?
Pepper is great.
Yes.
There are no flowers in the home. He still looks like he's wearing boots because the shaved fur on his arms just won't come back fast. So he looks ridiculous, but he is top notch.
Good.
And I have a question for you. When is it peach season?
Oh, it's summertime.
Soon, right?
Yeah, in a few months.
So the other day, my son was in a super grumpy mood and he just was not, he was having a hard time. And so I was trying to distract him. And so we were sitting down eating a snack and he's shoving the applesauce in, real grumpy. And I said, it was peach applesauce. And I
Okay.
said, hey, have you ever heard Alana eat a peach? And he perked up. No. I said, oh my gosh, it is so loud. And I mimicked you eating a peach because it's, my worst pet peeve when we used to work together. Alana would eat a
It's the
peach while I was on a
best.
conference call. And it's like stereo sound. Like I
I
was in a
really know
movie
how
theater.
to enjoy a peach. I should do it right on the podcast probably when
It was like
comes.
ASMR to the max, and I was get so distracted and grossed out. And so anyway, my son's looking forward. He said, have her send a video. So the second you have your first peach of the season.
All right. I will absolutely entertain the masses.
He was laughing. I described it as it's like she's biting an apple and then slurping an empty juice box. And
that's a great
that
description.
resonated with him, and he thought that was hilarious. And he's asked me about it all day.
Hopefully, maybe we can do it together in September.
That'd be great. He just kept asking, has Alana eaten a peach yet? I was like, no, buddy, it's been an hour. Not yet. They're not in season.
Him, Raj, and me eating peaches. I think that'll be a masterpiece.
Living the life. Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to that. So you got any stories today? Have you rescued / abducted any animals?
No new kittens. But there's so many around the neighborhood. I just feel so bad for them. Some of them are fine, totally. Like you could tell that they're taken care of by some people, even though they're outdoor cats. And some are just so sad looking. Like their face is like really crumpled. And you could tell the difference when they're just miserable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, not everybody has our intensity. And I would say you're a level above me. and I feel like I'm pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah. But there are some amazing people.
Oh, absolutely.
There's like a colony of cats actually on our dog walk that's like 7 cats, and they all wait at the front door for their food and just are happy. So
cute.
Yeah.
Bless us with your tea review.
Okay, so this one, do you want me to read it in French?
Yes, always yes.
I didn't know this was the word for this. Thé descend, houlant, fleur et citron. Pretty good.
Well, it's perfect. But also, I love how you're like, I didn't know this French word. I don't know French, but it still doesn't make sense that I wouldn't know this was a French word for it.
I know, but
here you go. Don't even pretend that you know French.
I know French a little bit. Mary Kate and I did one semester in college, and we were terrible at it. Like, I cannot express how terrible we were.
I think we all can grasp.
But we had a lot of fun with our professor. And we got her chocolates for Valentine's Day. Anyways, Dreamy Tea, song. Because it's like songs with a E in it. And that means dreamy, dreams, whatever.
All right.
So cool. If you couldn't understand my French, oolong, flowers, and lemon. Because, I either want to go to a dream state because the case is so terrifying, or I just want to float along with it. I can't fucking read this. A fucking foil thing. Okay.
Good Lord.
Sorry.
You really let it rip on that foil. Poor thing.
There's a good word in here. Okay. I'm sorry.
What's happening?
I'm just thinking of our coworker. Okay.
What?
Just, you'll get it. A delicious oolong with subtle tart notes, enlivened with lavender and mallow petals.
Mallow?
Yeah.
Mallow? What's that mean?
There's mallow is a plant.
Oh, okay. I thought you said mellow wrong, but now it makes sense. Tart. You like the word tart, don't you?
I love the word tart.
Because somebody was called Tart that we used to work with.
Such a weird description.
Well, it was secondhand. I feel like it may have been muddled a little bit.
Yeah, that was great stuff. Okay. So this sounds like a nice tea. Oolong is the kind of in between green and black, but you don't normally put milk in it. So I did not. And it just sounds really nice. One might say dreamy.
One might.
My nose isn't super powered right now, as it normally is.
Oh, no. You've dulled your senses.
I have. It smells floral, I guess.
You sound upset about that.
I'm mad at my nose.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Oh. Okay. I can see why it's called Dreamy. You'll see on the cover of the tea when I post it on Instagram that there's clouds on there, and that's what it feels like when you drink this tea.
Hmm.
It's like you just gently slide onto a cloud. It's nice and soft. There's a little bit of sweetness, I think, from the mallow plant. And then there's that hint of lavender, so it's like a little tinged purple cloud.
Oh,
It's there's body, but it's little. Some might say petite.
like a Nymeria?
Yes. But yeah, it's surprisingly sweet, but not too much. It doesn't feel fake. And then it just rests there like a cloud.
Sounds nice.
This is a dreamy thumbs up.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who makes the tea?
Palais de thé.
Okay. If you'd like her to do voiceovers for your company, please contact us at Tea Time Crimes.
Yeah.
She might be busy with Twinings, but we'll give it a go.
I know. I'm really sought after in that company.
It's definitely Twinings. Okay.
Honeybush.
Are you ready to get into the case?
It really depends.
More nightmarish case than dreamy, if you will.
That's why I got this tea.
On February 4th, 1733.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So 22-year-old Sarah Malcolm makes a choice to commit a crime for financial gain.
Okay.
But exactly what crime she committed is still debated. Sarah Malcolm was born in Durham in 1710, and her parents were the adjective you strive for in those days, respectable. That's like the highest compliment.
Yeah.
It's always what I read about. But her father was a big spender.
Hey, big spender. What is
I
that
knew
from?
you were going to do that.
Is that
I
Chicago?
actually paused to allow it to happen. I was like, she's going to absolutely sing Hey, Big Spender if she knows that song.
What show is that from? I
I
have
don't
no
know.
clue.
Well, you nailed it. So even though her family can afford to live comfortably, they run out of money. And then they're forced to move to Dublin because Sarah's mother is from Ireland. And so they have the ability to get living arrangements and new business arrangements based off of her connections.
Okay.
So once they're in Ireland, Sarah receives a basic education and her father opens up his own business.
Basic education up to like 11, as they do.
I think a little bit more. She's described as middle class. And she seems to know how to read and write, and
Oh, that's cool.
I think she was pretty well educated for the time.
Go for you.
Sarah moves to London when she's older, traveling with her parents. It's for a business trip. Her mother ends up passing away, and her father returns to Ireland, and Sarah's forced to stay in London and work. It's believed that her father lost their money again,
Oh,
and so she's run out of options.
that's nice.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when you should cut ties.
Well, yeah, she's about to. So in London, she gets a job working at a pub called the Black Horse.
Oh, fun.
I guess. She stops working at the pub and starts working as a washwoman or a laundress or a charwoman.
Charwoman.
Yeah, for the tenants in an apartment building above the Inn of Courts in the Temple.
Oh,
So
no.
it sounds like Sarah's running in a rougher part of town at the time because, like I said, she's described as middle class all over the place. They keep calling her middle class, but then they're describing the areas where she's hanging out as, quote, lowly for that time period. And she starts running with, what we'd call a rough crowd. She starts hanging out with a woman named Mary Tracy and two brothers, James and Thomas Alexander. So according to Sarah, those three, James, Thomas, and Mary, want to make a little extra cash, and they want Sarah to help them do this because Sarah has access to several of the apartments in that complex because of her job. So on January 28th, they sit down and they plan out what they're going to do. They are going to rob Miss Lydia Duncombe. She has used Sarah before as a charwoman, and Sarah knows her apartment. She knows the valuables there. She has access to the apartment, but she doesn't live alone. So besides Mrs. Duncombe, who's about 80-ish and a wealthy widow.
Don't do that to the elderly.
She also has in her home Miss Elizabeth Harrison, who's a 60-year-old woman. They call her her longtime companion, but when you look into the story, what it means is she's actually her maid. She used to be her
Oh,
maid for years, and then she became so sick she's bedridden, and instead of kicking her out, she lets her stay on, and then she hired another maid, a 17-year-old woman named Anne Price. So the three of those women are in the apartment together.
okay.
Yes, you have a question.
Maybe an observation.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
maybe either one is her daughter out of wedlock, and then your pretender maid. There's a whole Downton Abbey thing there, or they're lovers.
I don't know.
Okay, that's what I'll put in my head.
Mrs. Duncombe sounds just like a nice woman who's not going to turn the woman who's given her X amount of years of maid service out into the streets, but
Hmm.
maybe. Maybe there's something else going on. It was not mentioned in the 1733 newspapers, as you might expect.
Shocking.
So on February 4th, they plan to go through with this
Yeah.
robbery. Okay. Sarah waits until Anne Price, the new maid, leaves on an errand, knowing the household well enough to know that they'll leave the door. They said open, but I assume they mean unlocked
Yeah.
because Elizabeth is unable to get out of bed. So
Mm,
if somebody comes, they just leave it unlocked so that you can come and go easily.
okay.
So Sarah knows this. And so once Anne runs out to do an errand, she sends James Alexander in to
Oh
the apartment and
God.
she tells him where to hide. And then Sarah, Mary, and Thomas kind of just hang out around the complex until James pops his head out around 2 a.m. and says, all clear.
But there are two people there
3 people are in the apartment by that time at 2 a.m. Anne has come back.
at 2 a.m. But when he went in, there were two people.
Exactly. The 2 elderly women who don't get out of bed.
How could they sneak
They
in?
rarely get out of bed. So they're in different rooms and she told him where to go so he wouldn't be seen. So he comes out at 2 a.m. and says, we're good to go. Now, James, Thomas, and Mary go back into the apartment. Sarah stays on the stairwell. They're on the 3rd floor. She still stays in the stairwell to keep watch.
I would pee myself if I was in this scheme.
I mean, we're not cut out for this life. And she waits. And then the 3 come out of the apartment. They go down to the street. They have about 300 pounds worth of things, including,
Wow.
some money, silverware, pieces of
Silverware.
silver, gold. Well, that's like, it's made out of real silver.
I know. It's just funny. Like, oh, let me grab the bag of forks.
They'll melt it down. So they split up their loot. That's it. Robbery over.
Okay. Good job, team.
That's what Sarah says is happening. At this time, this crime is punishable by death.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But they all were in. So Sarah counts her money, moves along, end of story. There's one problem. Every single Sunday, Mrs. Duncombe's friend, Mrs. Ann Love, comes for a visit. So she comes in the afternoon after the robbery. She
Oh,
arrives like usual. She's expecting to visit, and they usually have lunch, but there's no answer at the door. So she waits. She's thinking, oh, the new maid must be.
where's Anne?
That's what she's asking. The new maid must be out running an errand. I'm sure she'll be back soon. I'll just wait. So she waits for a bit. She's knocking again, still no answer.
Oh, no.
So she decides to go to another tenant in the complex who is acquaintances
Uh
with
huh.
Mrs. Duncombe and like, have you heard anything? Do you know what's up? And so they both go back up to the 3rd floor. They're both knocking on the door. This tenant hasn't heard from them or hasn't seen them, and they're not able to get anyone to answer. Now they start to worry that Elizabeth has died and that
Yeah.
Anne has gone for help and that Mrs. Duncombe is just stuck in bed by herself, scared.
Yeah.
So they look out into the courtyard. They see Sarah Malcolm, it's believed, and they ask her to go get a locksmith. So she runs off. She ends up coming back and she says she's unable to find a locksmith, but the servant who works in the apartment adjacent to Mrs. Duncombe has a key to the adjoining apartment. And so they
Okay.
get her. She goes into that apartment, and then I imagine some sort of like shared balcony situation because she goes out the window of that apartment, walks over from the outside to the window of Mrs. Duncombe's apartment, breaks the glass, and enters the apartment that way.
Wow.
As soon as she gets in, she finds all 3 women murdered.
No.
Mrs. Duncombe and Mrs. Harrison have been strangled, and Anne's
Oh.
throat has been slashed.
Oh my God.
The bolt has also been thrown from the inside. So she had to flip the deadbolt open to get the door open
Yeah.
for the ladies. This is like the whole, it's a madhouse. They've got the coroner there. People are just walking through the apartment like it's just a mass of people. There's no
What?
preserving the crime scene is happening
Good
because
job,
I
guys.
guess there's nothing to preserve at that point because they don't have any forensics. But everybody knows about it. Everybody's talking about it. So later that night, another tenant in this complex, Mr. Carroll, he's the man that Sarah works for the most, and he comes home and finds Sarah in his apartment at like 1 in the morning, which is too late for her to be doing chores and laundry.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, "Why are you here?" But he asks her, "Have you heard about Mrs. Duncombe and what happened?" And she said she had, but who knows who it is. And for some reason, Mr. Carroll is immediately uneasy because the current rumors around town are that it must have been somebody like a laundress or a charwoman who did it because the only other people who had access to the apartment were the maids, and both maids are dead. Mr. Carroll knows Sarah used to be the laundress for that apartment.
Uh-huh.
And so he gets really uneasy. And she's also there in the middle of the night. So he's like, "Hey, you should leave. And can you give me back everything that you have of mine?" She's unable to return all of his clothes because she admits begrudgingly that she's pawned some of it.
Whoops.
So he calls the watch to come and get her. They speak to her and they can't find anything on her. So they just tell her to report back to the police station at 10 the next morning. But Mr. Carroll is suspicious enough that he starts looking around his apartment,
Yeah.
under his bed, and in a clothes stool. Do you know what that is?
No.
I think it's like a disguised chamber pot.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like a chair, but you lift up the lid.
Oh. It's comfortable.
I'm surprised you're not more disgusted by that. Anyway, in those two hiding places, he finds bloodstained clothes, linens, and a silver tankard with a bloody handle.
People are so fucking dumb.
Do you know what a silver tankard is?
Like a cup, like a
Yeah,
big
like a
mug.
silver beer mug.
Mhm.
Yeah. So he runs back out to the watch saying, "Look at everything I found." And they've already released Sarah. So he's furious. He's like, "Go find her. Like, look what I just found. I found all these bloody pieces of evidence." So they have to go and find her again because they've already let her go. When confronted, Sarah says the blood on the tankard is from a cut finger and that the tankard belongs to her mother and she's had it for 5 years. She also does happen to have a cut on her finger.
Hmm.
But, I mean, you could cut yourself killing someone too. So, I don't know. She also states that the blood on her own clothes is not appropriate for a man to see,
Ah,
meaning it was
nice.
from her period. Yeah. But the bloody clothing is found on her shift, which is the undergarment that you wear,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit on her apron. That's curious.
How's it get on the apron? You got a mess.
When she's searched, she has concealed a bag of money in her hair. It's like
What?
put it in a bun, I
I'm
guess.
dying to know what hairdo she had.
I know. I'm thinking one of those big buns. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Beehive.
And she has a green purse stuffed in her bosom, in her cleavage. Yeah.
You really went for bosom there.
That's a funny word, you know? I mean, and not everyone can pull that off. So
That's true.
the man who searches Sarah at this moment claims later that Sarah said, "Whoops, you found my money. It's Mrs. Duncombe's. I'll give you half of it if you keep your mouth shut." Maybe
Hmm.
not half. Like she offered an amount. And he didn't take the bribe. She says she never said that.
Oh, God.
She said that she was just here on charges because they believed the tankard was Mrs. Duncombe's.
What a mess.
And she also says, "I'm not the only one involved in this robbery. There's Mary Tracy and the Alexander brothers." So they're taken into custody.
They're murderers.
But it seems that the public has already made up their mind. And the papers report that Sarah's behavior is, quote, "so flagrant and incredible that she is surely guilty."
Hmm.
While the other three are reported as behaving so nicely that they must be innocent.
What?
Ooh, yeah.
What is wrong with people?
Also, the little innocent angel trio
Mm-hmm.
claims that Sarah was previously involved in a robbery and murder of an old man across town 2 to 3 years ago, where a man was robbed and his throat was cut with a razor, and a barber went to trial and was convicted of the murder. They claim she had
Oh,
something to do with that. There's no evidence of that.
they're pushing it. Oh boy.
According to the Old Bailey, Sarah is officially charged with the following. You ready? Sarah Malcolm was indicted for the murder of Anne Price, spinster, by willfully and maliciously giving her with a knife one mortal wound on the throat of the length of 2 inches and depth of 1 inch on the
There's really
4th of February instant, of which wound the said Anne Price instantly died.
really not
She
concise.
was a second time indicted for the murder of Elizabeth Harrison, spinster, by strangling and choking her with a cord on the said 4th of February, by reason of which strangling and choking the said Elizabeth Harrison instantly died.
God.
She was a third time indicted for the murder of Lydia Duncombe, widow, by strangling and choking her with a cord on the said 4th of February, by which strangling and choking the said Lydia Duncombe instantly died.
No.
So I have some edits to that, but she's charged with a triple homicide.
Yeah. They're really like a lot of words there.
Yeah. The authorities believe she acted alone in this triple homicide and robbery.
Truly idiotic.
Yeah. So Sarah, I think, realizing the weight of the world that is now on her shoulders, becomes violently ill. She's reported as going into convulsions and vomiting, that they are wondering if she'll even survive to stand trial. But she's not ill. I think she's just stressed to the max.
Yeah.
And the Derby Mercury, which is a newspaper, reports she appears a most hardened, obdurate wretch capable of any mischief. So this
Oh
is how the paper's
boy.
talking about her before she's even on trial. They've
Jeez.
already made up their mind. It also doesn't help that Sarah happens to be Catholic, and Catholicism is on the outs right now.
Yep.
They're not super into it.
No.
So February 23rd, 1733, the official trial starts. For some reason, Sarah defends herself. I don't think she has a legal degree, so we can see where this might be going.
Oh boy. It's not gonna be good. I can't
So the
believe
court
it.
interviews everyone that I've mentioned, right? Mrs. Ann Love, the friend that came over for lunch, she
Yeah.
recounts the horror of finding the bodies.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Awful. And she's questioned about the tankard that was found in Sarah's possession. Now, she could not identify the tankard as Mrs. Duncombe's. She said she'd never seen it before. So for a minute,
Hmm.
Sarah's cheering. But then the executor of Mrs. Duncombe's will states that, yes, that tankard belonged to Mrs.
Oh.
Duncombe and she used it to store her money, and then she put those things in a box and locked it. The executor is also able to identify the green purse, that was
Mm-hmm.
concealed on the bodice. Then the servant who broke in says the bolt was locked from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Sarah's like, yes, all right. Can't prove the tankard's mine. The bolt's locked from the inside.
Yeah.
But oh, whoops, the tankard is Mrs. Duncombe's. And then the court brings in people from the temple who show that there is a way to throw the deadbolt from the outside if you know how to do it.
Oh.
Again, she's not getting any ground here. Then they bring in Mr. Carroll and all the other tenants who would have witnessed anything or seen anything, and they testify to finding the bloody clothes. They testify to, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Sarah, out of the 4 of them, right, the 4 that she says are involved, Sarah's the only one who's been caught with Mrs. Duncombe's possessions. Plus, she has bloody clothes. For the Alexander brothers and Mary, they have nothing on them to
I
link them to the crime.
But that's okay.
I know. We'll get into it. So Sarah, again, she's defending herself. She cross-examines all the witnesses, and she keeps asking everybody what she was wearing when they saw her.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody keeps responding with, I don't know what you were wearing. Followed by, plus, I didn't see you after the murder. I saw you the next day. So what does it matter what you're wearing? You had plenty of time to change your clothes.
What? Why
So I'm
does
not sure
she
why she kept doubling down on that point. Maybe she only had
it's
one dress. I don't know. But eventually Sarah herself will take the stand, and she admits the money was Mrs. Duncombe's. She did the robbery. All of those things belonged to Mrs. Duncombe. But she maintains that the blood was not from the murder. She says, quote, modesty might compel a woman to conceal her own secrets if necessity did not oblige her to the contrary. And 'tis necessity that obliges me to say that what has been taken for the blood of the murdered person is nothing but the free gift of nature.
Wow, that's a way to put it.
Yeah.
Twining's better hire her.
Yeah, I know, right? So she claims Mr. Carroll had asked her to stay there because he was going out of town, and that the menstrual blood also got on the linens that she laid on, plus her shift because she wore it as an undergarment, and a little bit on the apron because she said she wore the apron over her shift. Her main defense And her main point is, why in the world would my shift be bloody if I had murdered Anne Price? How could the blood get on my undergarments and on the lower portion of them? And I think she brings up a good point, because I wondered the same thing. If you had slashed Anne's throat with a knife or something, the blood would be on your upper body. And apparently it's not.
Unless she was lying down when you slashed her throat.
It still wouldn't be on the back of your undergarment.
Yeah, that's true. Unless like she wiped her hands. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. There is zero forensics happening right now. So we
Oh,
can't
I'm
type the
sure.
blood. We can't
Yeah.
analyze the blood patterns. Nothing is happening. Also, it's believed that Sarah bringing up such a taboo topic immediately harmed her. Like,
Oh
nobody
my
cared what she
God.
said as soon as she talked about having a period.
God forbid.
Because this time is when health is based on the balance of bodily humors, right?
Oh
So you've
yeah.
got
Oh
black
yeah.
bile, yellow bile,
Yep.
phlegm, and blood. So women having an excess of blood every month is seen as the body trying to regulate an imbalance, otherwise known as an illness. So it's looked upon negatively.
Truly fucking dumb.
Oh, there's so much more. And it's thought that men expelled their excess more
Oh.
efficiently through sweat. But the weaker, delicate constitution of a woman didn't allow for something as manly as sweat. So their body had to expel it somehow. And
Feels
that's
like blood is a little bit more intense than
then
sweat,
sweat, right?
homies.
I know. And so the blood in the body was considered malignant. And
Oh,
here are some theories that they believed about it.
God, the English, I'll tell you.
Well, it wasn't just the English. Menstrual blood could pull the skin off men if they came in contact with it.
I wish.
It could affect the weather, and it could spoil hams. Not even
Just
kidding.
hams, not what about lamb?
Any cured meats.
Okay.
If a woman was on her period and she rubbed a brine on a cured meat, spoiled, done. There were quotes from medical journals about.
What the? That's what. Oh my God. It's like, what today we have the most
I
stupid
know.
fucking stuff going
What are
on?
we doing that thing? Like spoiled, rotten, spoiled those hams.
Wow. Wow. Affect the weather. I feel like that makes them very powerful.
Yeah, nobody likes that.
Ugh.
There are also stories of menstrual blood being used in potion.
Oh boy.
There's a documented case that states Kirsten Persdotter admitted that she took from what goes from her with her monthly time and blended it with brandy. Also took hair from her secret thing and put it on butter and pancake, all with
Stop.
the intention that she shall get him as a husband.
Stop it. No. No. Absolutely not. I object. Ew.
So
Also, the words in that are great.
all the words were bad. I don't know why
Secret
pancake
thing.
suddenly sounded disgusting. Secret thing. Science is losing in this
Oh boy.
period, okay? Science is not winning.
Pun intended.
I think Sarah might have been better off saying, I cut my finger and it just bled
Wow.
everywhere. Because as soon as she mentioned this, they were like, whoop, nope, we can't talk about this. We can't know about it. And you're
Look,
probably doing it to bewitch us. Get out of
I
here.
feel like this is an easy one to figure out. You know, like things in science is hard. Like I don't even know how they figured out blood types. I assume by examining the cells, but that's tough, right? This happens every month.
I have my next note is about that.
Like this is an easy one to figure out.
This is also a time when women are rarely actually having periods. They started later in
Why?
life and then they were pregnant until they died.
Why did they start later?
I don't know. That's a different thing to get into. And lots of times, if they weren't pregnant, conditions were so bad that there would be whole groups of people who were so malnourished that it would stop. The period would stop
Oh
anyway.
yeah.
So this is a time when they are rarely having periods in a way. But if you were a
Wow.
healthy woman in childbearing years and you weren't pregnant, then yes, this was happening every month.
Wow.
So after she explains away the blood and everybody's completely
Grossed
repulsed,
out.
she reiterates that she passed the new maid on the steps who was going out for an errand, and she knew that the door would be open
Yeah.
because Elizabeth's too sick. So she sent one of the Alexander brothers in. They waited at 2 a.m. The hiding brother comes out. She stays on the steps the entire time. Then they go in the street to divvy up the loot. She said she was concerned about the women and she asked, and the three of them told her that they did have to gag the women and tie them up. but that they were fine.
No. They gagged them to death.
She fully admitted to the robbery, knowing that she's going to be sentenced to death just for admitting that. But she was adamant that she did not murder anybody.
So it makes you believe her, in my eyes.
The jury deliberates for 15 minutes. The whole trial was only 5 hours. And she was found guilty and sentenced to death.
I disagree.
Sarah broke down sobbing. Reporters are visiting Sarah from the time of this verdict until her execution because they're hoping that she will confess to them. But she does not. She maintains her story. She says the same thing that she said in court.
Yeah.
A well-known English painter, William Hogarth, also visits Sarah, and a day or two before she's put to death, he does a painting of her that has now become well-known. And he said, "This woman, by her features, is capable of any wickedness."
Oh, boy.
I know, cool it, William. But the portrait features Sarah sitting alone at a table in her cell with a rosary in front of her. I'm assuming, right, to call out that she's Catholic and add another layer to her guiltiness.
Well, because her mom's from Ireland, so I mean, it makes sense.
So in 1733, it was customary to have the execution quickly and near the crime scene.
Okay, are we at
So a scaffold is created on Fleet Street, and Sarah's
hanging, I'm
absolutely...
assuming?
What's that?
Hanging.
Yes. Sarah's absolutely distraught over the location because it means that her friends and acquaintances will witness this, and she does not want to be in front of a crowd where she knows people. I can understand that. This is not a time that you want anyone.
But
like
also, would you...
strangers would be better.
I mean, I still don't understand it, but I'm assuming I would understand it back then because so many people did it. Like, I can't imagine, like, oh, my old coworker, let me go see her die.
Yeah, I would probably sit it out.
Yeah. I'd probably go to the river that day.
Why the river? What's going to
I
happen
don't know.
there?
It's nice and peaceful. Watch the water go and sit
Are you
by a
kidding me?
tree.
You're going to have to work. You don't have time off.
You know what? Maybe the hanging makes it a public holiday.
You're not a lady of leisure. You and
How
I
dare
are
you.
both washwomen. Get me?
I'm a charwoman.
I'm a charwoman.
I live in a chimney.
The day of the execution on March 7th, she wore a black dress, black gloves, white apron, and a hood. One paper reported that she had declared herself a Protestant at the last minute. I don't know if that's true. It also doesn't matter. On the way to be hanged, Sarah fainted.
Yeah,
They revive her to prepare.
Fucked.
I know, just let her be unconscious. They revive her to prepare her. She faints again.
Yeah.
She wakes up just before the cart pulls out from under her, and she screams a bunch of things. One of which was for God to take her soul. After the body was taken to an undertaker, people paid money to come view it.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
There's
gross.
nothing to do. Then there is a rumor that a professor dissected Sarah and articulated the skeleton, placed it in a glass case, and then donated it to the Cambridge Botanical Gardens.
What?
I don't know if
I thought you were going to say, like, Cambridge Science Department.
No, the Botanical Gardens.
Why the fuck would you want a skeleton in the Botanical Gardens?
I mean, is there a great need for skeletons anywhere?
I mean, if they're like, if a science, like a biology class, that's better use. Learn the skeleton and the bones.
But do we need the skeleton of somebody convicted of murder? Like,
I mean, probably not.
No one can prove if that's true or not. Anyway. The other three, Mary, James, and Thomas, totally dismissed. No charges filed.
You know that they did it. I really believe her.
One newspaper also reported that in December of that same year, James was again arrested for robbing somebody. So, what do you think? What crimes did Sarah commit?
She committed the robbery.
You don't think she had anything to do with the murders?
No.
I do not think she murdered all three women. It just does not make sense that she would have
that's like
a knife
escalating 0 to 100
and be able to strangle two women just all by herself for somebody who's never... Well, I guess we don't know about the old man across the street, but if we eliminate that rumor because it can't be proven, there's just no way. There's definitely a possibility that she murdered somebody in the house, though. She could have slashed Anne Price, and then the Alexander brothers could have strangled the other women.
I think she condemned herself to death by wanting to say that she just robbed them. So I feel like that motion to do that makes it so that she didn't murder them. Because why condemn yourself to death?
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but to think about it, I mean, she was already caught for the robbery. They had found, she's got the stuff in the boobs and the hair. She's already kind of caught, and the tankard in the toilet. So she's already caught on that front. So maybe she's just hoping they'll all be lenient on her and not put her to death for the robbery
Mm.
if she's able to prove that she did not kill anybody.
But they didn't prove that oh yeah, I don't know. It's just so bad. The evidence is just not there.
It's solely because she had blood on her clothes. And so
Yep.
really what it comes down to is Sarah unlucky enough that she would have the stolen loot from a robbery and bloody clothes that happened to be from another instance at the same exact time?
Did they not search the houses of the other three?
I don't think they did anything. They were like, "Oh, you guys seem really solid and nice."
That's
What?
just not how it works. I'm so annoyed right now.
It's
Ever heard of the
amazing.
Angel of Bremens or whatever her name was? She's
Yeah.
nice.
It's amazing how that first impression of somebody
It's wild.
just
It's so stupid. Have they not
yeah,
lived a life where they've met somebody two-faced?
I don't know.
Ugh.
I
I
don't know.
really don't think she murdered them. But, like, these 3 seem shady, and they've, like, done shit before. This is her I mean, we think this is her first big crime. We don't know, I guess. But
Yeah.
I
This is
don't
the
know.
stuff that's hard to put together off the paper because I feel as though if I knew those 4 people and had seen them in everyday life, I would be able to say, "Oh, there's no way she could have done that," or
Mhm.
"Yeah, she definitely could have done it." Just you
Right.
get an idea off of
I
somebody, what they're
know.
capable of and how they act and
And
even,
everybody said that she was capable of wicked things. Like, I can't wait to see that portrait 'cause I'm like, "What does she look like?"
one person described her as a thin-lipped beauty, which I find hilarious description. But I think that, in this especially at this all these time period ones that we do, women are instantly evil
Yeah.
almost every time, no matter what. And then Sarah's at admitting to the robbery and having her period, so she's done for. That's 3
Yeah.
strikes, you're out. You're a woman, you're having your period, and you took something, you're done
Yep.
for.
Bye-bye. Just absurd. Just so absurd. I don't know, my gut feeling is that she didn't murder. I feel like she would have gotten out of there. Like, she wouldn't have calmly I don't think she even knew. She
I
wouldn't have
don't either.
calmly divided the loot. She would have freaked out and ran to Ireland.
I also think so too. Don't think she would have stuck around with it, and I also don't think she would have been waiting around in the courtyard to run and get a locksmith. I think she was waiting around
Right.
because she thought the women were all in there tied up,
Yes.
and she was probably, like, hoping, "Gosh, I hope they get untied soon." They're old women, they've been tied up
Yeah.
now for X amount of hours. I hope somebody finds them soon, and she would know that Mrs. Ann Love would come every
Would
Sunday
come,
at that
yeah.
time, and so she was probably kind of waiting for that time to happen, and so that then for the news to break and to make sure everybody was okay, if that's truly what she
Yeah.
cared about. That makes more sense to me than if you murdered somebody or you knew they were murdered. I don't know why you would hide bloody clothes under somebody else's bed
No, it just doesn't make
to
any
be
sense.
washed and then just stick around the apartment.
No.
Like, I don't think she's that dumb, but
No. I
I don't
really
know.
don't think so. I think if she knew they were murdered, she'd have freaked out and ran away. To go split the loot after, you have to be so cold and dead hearted.
The other thing is that none of those 3 were caught with anything, right?
But they weren't even searched.
But everything was found on her person, so I'm guessing if you follow our current logic, they knew that those 3 women were dead. So they split up their loot, and then they probably immediately sold it or they got rid of it,
Yeah, you're right.
right? And
They
Sarah
had
was
that
holding on to it
intelligence. Yep.
because she
So
thought but still, if she was found with anything, she would have had to have at least known that they were gonna come in and then they were gonna say they were robbed and that they were gonna be looking for the stolen items, and so she might have that's still punishable by death. So you think she would have hid those items better?
right. So that more so proves to me that she's incompetent at the life of crime.
You're bad at it, so you didn't murder anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I bet if you went to their houses or like maybe they got blood, they've got to have some blood. Whoever slashed the throat has got to have some blood on their sleeves or something like that. And like they probably discarded it in the river, and I'm gonna see that as I'm sitting there floating by, and then I'll bring it to the trial, and then I would have saved the day. But
Yeah, you are at the river. Well, you at the execution day. It's a little late. You're gonna have to
yeah,
go to the
sure,
river prior to. Hopefully, you go
you're
to the
right.
river every day in this story.
Yeah, maybe that's part of my routine to like balance my what do they call it? Humors.
Yeah, you need to get some of that yellow black bile
Blech.
situation going. I don't believe that she murdered all 3 women. I don't
Nope,
believe that. If
I
she,
don't.
I'm not sure. She may have murdered one. She may have. They say strangled. I don't know.
That's brutal. Can you imagine? I don't want to, but imagine strangling an old person. Like it immediately really upsets me.
I know exactly. That's why I would
Like
think that
I want someone to fight back if I
If
have to do it.
Sarah was going to kill one of the older women, I feel like a pillow would have been involved.
Yeah,
But this is me making
because you don't have to
assumptions,
look at their face.
not somebody choking them, which is incredibly violent.
Yes.
But we don't know. This is us just
We don't know,
talking.
but let us know what you think. Put a comment in on our Instagram post because I mean, if you hold the other side, tell us why. You
Yeah,
think
what was
did
she
it.
guilty of? Was she guilty of the triple homicide, just the robbery, or maybe the robbery and 1 homicide, or I guess up to 2? It feels like 2 different people went in with 2 different motives.
Yeah, yeah, it really does.
Because those are very different ways to kill as well.
Yeah, but you got to think 2 of them are disabled essentially, and one of them is a young sprite.
Right, but that's why I think what probably happened, and I don't even know if it was planned, the murders were planned. What probably happened is Anne probably woke up
Yes,
because she
and
was
started
said,
freaking out.
yes, she was said to have struggled, and they probably
Slit
slit
her
her
throat.
throat. And then I assume the other women probably woke up and were unable to move. But still, even like they must have seen them, because otherwise you could get away from a bedridden old lady pretty quick.
Yeah.
So they must have seen them.
Wow.
That's the only thing I can think of, because they're not putting up a fight.
No, exactly.
But that also is a mark against Sarah, because out of those, I don't know how well known those 3 were around town.
Yeah.
Would Sarah have been the only one that the 2 older women recognized?
Right. I know that's fucked up that she even did this to elderly. Like, don't
Yeah,
fucking
I
do
know.
that to elderly people. That's really messed up.
Ay. It's also a weird time where you don't have a place of your own. She
Mm-hmm.
stayed with
Right. Right.
like people that she worked for. That's why I'm saying like the hiding spots were limited.
Yeah.
She was often staying at their homes. That's why she hid it in a toilet under the bed.
It's terrible. But you know
Yeah.
what? It's amazing though that lady was 80 in the late 1700s.
I know. That's like being 150.
Yeah.
Dang.
She's got to have some good humors.
I guess
They're very
so.
balanced.
And she was clearly a thoughtful woman, because the fact that she kept on Elizabeth
Yeah.
even when she was
Well,
sick.
I have
Right. It's
stories.
either her daughter or her lover, so of course she
Yes.
did that. Ridiculous.
uh,
Scary stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if she did it or not. Only Sarah and the ladies know, and
yep.
that's it. So what are your last thoughts?
Well, I have 2. First, don't abuse the elderly. That's like
Yeah.
one of the worst things you could do, just like abusing children. Just don't. Thanks. Second, I know people are, I mean, it's still today, people are weirded out by menstrual cycles. But I think tying back to what we've talked about in other episodes of like self esteem and stuff, even if you're a guy, like normalizing it a little bit, I feel like could go a long way. And it's just more breaking down of that weird superstition around the period, I think is just a healthy thing for society. So that's my thought.
Yep. In the articles I was reading, they would often call it the flowers.
Your moon.
Yeah. That's one.
Yeah, well, Chris just picked me up some tampons, so thanks, Chris. But I'm saying, like, not all guys would do that, and that's so stupid that they wouldn't. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do agree. It should be totally normal.
Right.
It should be totally normal. It is a part of half of Everybody's experienced it. Half of the
Yes.
population has experienced it at one point or another,
So stop making it weird.
mostly. And, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Stop thinking that it's gonna melt your skin off
So
or ruin your ham.
that is unbelievable.
I was dying when I read that.
Well, that it's only cured meats. Like,
Yeah,
why?
I wish I had
What
written
is
down the quote
happening?
because it was just so ridiculous. Many a cured hams I've had ruined by an unthoughtful cook until she got the sense to bring a man in to put on the brine.
Oh, Lord.
Like, what are you saying, sir?
What's happening? Yeah,
Anyway,
that's special times.
yeah, that's good stuff. I wish I could see what cured ham fables were currently living out, but we'll never know.
We'll never know.
All right, who should listen today?
Char women, definitely.
Definitely, it's a big population.
Caretakers, housekeepers, people who are on the verge of committing crimes for their financial welfare. Don't go, just
Buy yourself
don't.
a nice ham instead.
Yeah, there are other paths, but maybe people who like rivers and
People who live down by the river.
yeah, the river folk, and scientists and police officers. Thank goodness we have forensics now.
Yeah, gosh, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
It really is. All right, well, you can
Hashtag
find us
science.
on all the platforms at.
Tea and a time and a crimes.
You can email us at.
teatimecrimes@gmail.com.
Please rate, review, like, subscribe, tell your friends, and thank you so much for
Tell
listening.
your enemies.
Yeah, well, if they're on the cusp of committing terrible crimes, and
Yeah.
yeah, then they would be. All right, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
Ta-ta.
Ooh, ta-ta. That's nice.